Yo, welcome back to episode 58 of the local podcast. I hope you guys are all prepped for the holidays and you're having a good week so far. This episode of the podcast is brought to you by Brian Nicholas Jewelry. They are Westmoreland's best kept secret for all your jewelry needs, and they're located conveniently inside of the Pawn and Jewelry Exchange right in downtown Greensburg, right down the road. Their husband and wife team, Brian and Ashley, they're there to bring your jewelry ideas to life and make the jewelry buying experience something that you won't soon forget. They're there to help you out with all of your jewelry repairs, engagement rings, just because gifts, or appraisal needs. On site, you have a master jeweler and a certified appraiser. You don't have to send those things out and then wait a couple days to hear things back. They're right there at your fingertips. You can find them on Instagram and Facebook at Brian Nicholas Jewelry, or you can just stop in and say hi at the Pawn and Jewelry Exchange. There's convenient parking right there at the pawn shop. You won't have to go search for a parking spot. So what are you guys waiting for? Get down there and check it out. This episode is also brought to you by Greensburg Video. If you and your company are in need of social media videos, web videos, broadcast TV commercials, anything that you can think of that has to do with photography or video, you can hit me up at greensburgvideo.com or gbgvideo.net. Also, don't forget that you can advertise on this very podcast. If you're interested in that, reach out. On today's show, we're going to talk about mental health and happiness, two subjects that I think are very important to talk about this year. We have Kim Broaddus and Morgan Zimmerman, two licensed pros in here to talk with us about that. So let's do it. Welcome to the Local 724 podcast in 3, 2, 1. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the Local podcast. I'm your host, Jordan Hauser. Today we have Kim Broaddus and Morgan Zimmerman in to talk to us today about some mental health and mental awareness. And especially now, I think it's a good time that we talk about those things. So ladies, welcome to the show. How are you?
I'm good. Thank you for having us.
Yeah. That's great.
We're excited to be here.
Yes.
We are.
All right. So what do you think, this year, I guess, has done to people? What has the pandemic done to people this year?
Well, that's a big question.
Swinging for the fences right out of the gate.
Yeah. I mean, you went right into it. So I don't know the exact stats on this, but I think what I've seen throughout my own observation, I think some stuff that we know is that anxiety has increased, depression has increased, suicidal ideation has increased, overdoses have increased. And so that's pretty significant and very telling of how this pandemic and how these times in the world has been affecting people. And so I do really appreciate you having us on to talk, because whenever we were collaborating about this, and whenever you and I were discussing off camera that this stuff needs talked about more. Mm-hmm. Everybody is affected. Everybody's having emotions in one way or another. But I don't think that it's normalized to the degree that it needs to be to talk about it.
Yeah. No, I totally agree. It's, I'm an open book. It's just like, at the beginning of all of this, like I was kind of like, you don't ever want to be the guy that's like, this is awesome type of thing. But I do think that like most people, when they hear something that like bad is going to happen, it's interesting. It's kind of like, you don't want to actually see any kind of like a war take place, but you sit there and you get this like little feeling in your stomach. You're like, oh my God, this is like exciting. This is like scary and blah, blah, blah. So at the beginning of this, I was kind of like that. I was just kind of curious about what this would bring. And, a few months into, me and my wife just sitting here, and we didn't have the kids with us. They were with their dad. And it was just like, things were like really terrible. And we were just like, man, this is like really depressing. And I ended up getting back on, I had some anxiety medication that I hadn't taken since my 20s. And I ended up getting back on it, whenever this happened. And it was just like, I feel like, I don't know, most people might not agree with me, but I feel like I'm a well-rounded person. And I feel like people that maybe aren't so, confident mentally would probably have a really rough time with this.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Oh, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you, Morgan.
Oh, no, I was just gonna agree with you, and agree with Kim too. Not only are we seeing people who had existing mental health disorders have more severe symptoms, we've also been getting a lot of people who never went to therapy, or maybe they never experienced this type of thing, and then just kind of that morbid curiosity that I think we all have, right? Sometimes we're curious what these things are going to look like. But the domino effect has been so severe economically and financially for people that too has really affected people's mental health as well.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. And I just have to say, I appreciate you being honest and transparent about that, Jordan, because that's part of why we wanted to have this conversation, right? And I am very big on talking about the importance of vulnerability. And so part of how we normalize these emotions and we normalize these experiences is by having vulnerable moments and normalizing those emotions, because that allows us to connect with other people, right? Mm-hmm. Whenever we're holding things to ourselves as if it's only me or only I'm going through this, we start to shame ourselves. And nothing good comes from that. We can't shame ourselves into feeling better, and we can't shame ourselves into changing. And there's a lot of research on that. And I can kind of go on a tangent and give more info with that. But so thank you for just opening up and sharing that, because I think that that's going to do more good and help people by relating and connecting even to what you said there.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Yeah, it's the group of people that I hang out with, like my friends, family and stuff. I mean, we're all pretty much the same. Like, we're open books, and I think we feel really comfortable reaching out to one another and just saying, like, man, my anxiety is like getting really rough about this or that, or the shit sucks really bad and I'm just like depressed, and like we talk to each other like that, and it's just I think like what you said, like normalizing it's really important, because I remember like back in the day, like this is before I ever had anxiety. I was really young. My mom had anxiety, and I remember always like that was kind of a secret. Like, we didn't want anyone to know. And it's not even like a big thing, like anxiety, like everybody fucking has anxiety, but it's like, it was really hard for her to like take us to the grocery store and stuff like that. And I remember like when I was a kid, I was the dickhead who was like, this is like, we're just going to the grocery store. What's the big deal? Like, blah, blah, blah. Like I couldn't understand what she was going through. And now that I have it, I'm just like, and there's points in time where I have to like seclude myself from the family or do something, like go sit on the couch and be alone for 10 minutes. Now I understand. I get it.
Yeah. Well, I'm just going to say something to what you were sharing, because I don't think you were a dickhead. I think you were a kid.
Right. Yeah.
And I think you're bringing light to something important. Yeah, we all have anxiety. It's a normal emotion. The problem is whenever it escalates to where our emotional response is not fitting the problem, right? So that's whenever we might have more of an anxiety disorder or struggling with it a bit more than somebody else. And so I think that we do have to normalize anxiety and change our relationship with that too. So whenever I get anxious, can I make sense out of that versus shaming myself as if I'm having an inaccurate emotion?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah, I think it's just, it is, as much as we're saying like it should be normalized, I think it is to a point at, now, but it could stand to be more normalized, I think.
And I think if anything good really has come from this year, I think not only talking more about mental health in general, because it is we are seeing people with more severe symptoms right now, and things like suicidal ideation, and the more severe symptoms are increased. But also, we got a lot of help from the insurance companies in that before they wouldn't let us use a platform like this. Mm-hmm. So I think in some ways too, this year we've been able to reach more people, and more people have maybe been able to get help. Because going back to your mom, there's lots of people who even coming to therapy can be a barrier because they're anxious. They're not sure what it's going to feel like. So if they can be in the comfort of their own home, that's been a really beneficial. I've noticed it with my clients. I feel like people are comfortable sharing things, even deeper things than they would in my office when they're at home in their own environment.
Yeah, I was going to ask. I think, as crappy as it is that, we can't see each other face to face and things. But just like you said, being in the comfort of your own home, really does kind of give you that, that little nudge to just, say things that you might not feel comfortable saying. 'Cause maybe you're already getting uncomfortable about going, and sitting in somebody else's office in a place where you're not familiar. And then it's just I want to get out of here as soon as possible, make this as painless as possible. But, doing the telehealth thing, I think is very cool. Have you guys seen, an increase, I guess, just in patients, numbers?
Yeah, I would say so. It got to a point, let me back up for a second, because actually I started working fully for myself the beginning of March. Mm-hmm. So this was right before the pandemic happened. And I got full very fast. And I don't say that really to, of course I'm happy, to be able to do that, but I'm not happy that people are struggling. I want to be a support and I want to be there for people, but to get full that quickly, in terms of my schedule and my caseload and the clients that I can take, I think that's pretty telling. Mm-hmm. So I know that we've both discussed getting a significant amount of referrals, which is great because I'm glad people are taking the step to say, hey, maybe now's the time that I need to focus on myself and explore my feelings and how things are affecting me. I think that is a beautiful thing that's come from this pandemic, where people are willing to take that step because of the pandemic, even if it's been something that's been needed for a long time, right? Because I also think working on ourselves, self-improvement, self-growth, it's a cool thing. It really is. Yeah. It's cool to get to know yourself more. It's cool to work on the relationship with you. And something I talk about a lot, and I'm sorry, I'm kind of spinning off into something.
No, that's all right. Keep going.
I was just going to say.
That's how it goes.
Yeah, I'm wait a second. I'm going way off of there. But something I talk about a lot is the most important relationship that we have is the relationship with ourselves, right? Mm-hmm. How many people really invest in the relationship with themselves? I think we're taught to, be kind and compassionate and courteous to other people, but are we doing those things for ourselves? And at least from my own observation, what I notice with people with high anxiety and high depressive symptoms, it's very often correlated with a negative view of self and a negative relationship with self. So I think if anything, this pandemic just exacerbated, I can never say that word, the symptom that people were already having.
Yeah. It's a weird thing because it really wasn't, for me personally, it wasn't just the sitting at home and things like that. I mean, because my wife and I, we really made a good use of that time. We were having, more movie nights and things like that, things that we really don't ever get into. We don't sit and watch movies per se. We'll get into shows, but we would watch movies and make a dinner and do that, so we were having a great time doing it. The Zoom hangouts, things like that. We were having drinks with friends over Zoom hangouts and stuff. The big thing for me this year was politics, and it wasn't a thing that ever affected me ever in my entire life. I wasn't very political at all until this year, and then compound the this pandemic on top of that, and just all the information that comes out on like social media and stuff, you really have no idea what's real, what's not. You don't know what other people are going through, and you're just like, literally, you read one thing and you get pissed off and you start yelling. Like, somebody shared something yesterday that was like, you're not allowed to shovel your neighbor's sidewalks. And it was like tagged with like the PA state department and whatever. Like, it looked.
Oh, I saw that. I know what you're talking about.
Dude, and everyone was like, this is bullshit. I'm going to go shovel everybody's walk now. And it's like, it was a joke. Somebody made that. And, it just made people fight back and forth.
Yeah, because didn't it say on there you can't go sled riding? It was like everything you can't do. And I read it too. And I'm like, I don't feel like this is accurate. Yeah. And then I saw that it was fake, but people were sharing that as if that was the truth. And you brought up so many good points in that.
Yeah, because it was ridiculous.
The graphics that people make they look so legit, and we can certainly get into like the social media and all of the misinformation that was spread, and I do think that that's good to talk about. I also want to highlight something that you said that I think is so important. So you said at the beginning of this, you and your wife were spending more time together, watching movies, doing these things, and I think that is something that we recognize, that I hope that we hold true even moving forward, in that I think in our culture, we glamorize busyness, and things came to just a grinding halt. And I talked to so many people who realized our family was running itself ragged. Yeah. And we're happier now that we're doing less. And, they were even saying, like, moving forward, I don't know if we're going to do some activities. I don't know if we're going to do activities every single night of the week and things like that. Mm-hmm. So I think that that's such a good thing that you got to experience. But I would agree, the atmosphere with politics this year got so cruel. And people are cruel to each other. And, it feels like such high stakes to possibly have a different opinion from somebody, especially online, because things can get so mean so fast, because, there's that anonymity of not, I don't have to look you in the face and say all these things and deal with, seeing how it might affect you. And I just, I found social media in general to just become very toxic. And I've encouraged people to, maybe do less of that. Look at less things, unfollow people. If you don't want to unfriend them, that's fine, but at least unfollow them. Don't look at their stuff. And find other outlets where you can either connect with people or be entertained. I mean, get it. We like to scroll. We like to, entertain ourselves. But I think people are getting high blood pressure over it. You said you felt your blood pressure rising, and that's people really are the news articles that are being shared, especially the fake ones, getting people all upset over nothing.
Yeah, it's literally just like, that's people have fun doing this. Like, there's people, the internet trolls, they just sit there, they make something like this, they share it, and they just watch it explode. And they sit and laugh while people are like, threatening, like, yo, the next time I see you, I'm going to punch you in the face. And it's like, for what?
Yeah.
Right. It's nuts.
There's a lot of reactivity online. And I think, Morgan, one time whenever you and I were talking, obviously off of this, you brought up a good point of that stuff with people just having more time to focus on something. So there was excitement over the political stuff because a lot of people felt like their normal activities were stripped away from them. So I think it being this year, along with just COVID, it intensified.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
It gives people an identity, too. People, you want to feel like you're part of something or part of a group, part of a tribe, that type of thing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you're not wrong. Definitely. I did want to go back to Morgan, something you said right away. It was the busy culture. Like, everyone takes pride in that. And that's like something that's kind of the personal struggle I had with like corporate atmosphere. That's why I run my business by myself now. Is just like, you know, I worked down at like a giant retail. I worked at American Eagle corporate down in Pittsburgh. So in that office, it's a bunch of mainly young people who are like super hungry, super corporate-y, and they like 5 o'clock rolls around. There's no end in sight. And no one wants to be the first one out the door. So everyone just sits there and waits until boss leaves. And then it's like, and I wasn't that guy. I was like, yo, 4:58, I'm up putting my jacket on and like, I'm out the door. And everyone was just like, started to look at me as like, I'm, you know, the outsider. I'm the black sheep guy. I'm the dude that like, you don't want to piss off. And like, you know, it was such a weird thing. And I was just like, there's life outside of this place. And I think that, you know, when everything came to that grinding halt, it just really reset everyone. And there's people that like I really disagreed with and couldn't stand to be around in that corporate atmosphere that I'm seeing online are really slowing down and like enjoying life.
Yeah,
you know, it's great. I think it's awesome that people are like really starting to do things that, you know, they haven't allowed themselves to do. Like, I mean, I started playing guitar again over the pandemic. Like that's something that I haven't done for probably 15 years. And I got into it, and now me and my stepson play together. It's fun. It's great. Me and my friends play, you know, via this type of thing. And it's just real fun. You know, people are slowing down and they're really trying to figure out what makes them happy. And I think it's important.
That's a really cool thing. I think that's a good point too. And yeah, that busy culture. But I think it's allowed people to take the time to see why we talk about self-care being so important, and to really become more aware of how much energy am I devoting towards overworking and how much energy have I been putting towards taking care of myself. And I think too, now that people have slowed down, there's a good baseline to understand and to see and feel what it feels like to be less busy, right? And Morgan and I have said a few times about, like, you're not going to get a gold medal for working yourself to death and burning yourself out. What do you get for that?
Nothing.
Like maybe a little bit more money here and there.
Yeah.
But is that worth burning yourself out and being more irritable and agitated and tired and exhausted? Not so much.
Yeah, definitely not. I mean, like how have you guys been coping since you're the professionals?
Oh, good question.
Like how is this affecting you, and how do you guys, like, do you have to talk to yourselves or do you talk to each other? How does that work?
Do you want me to go first, Morgan? Or?
I'm good. I don't want to step on your toes. So if you want to go, and
right, since I stole your intro too. See, you're so much more kind. That's why I love her so much. So that's a great question. Actually, I want to kind of speak about Morgan here and throw her under the bus in a good way, because she's not only a colleague, but also somebody that is one of my best friends. And I'm definitely privileged and lucky to have a friend like her. And also, so I think that having that support and having somebody to bounce how we're feeling off of is crucial. And I think it's really crucial to practice what we preach. I'm very big on that. I think if I'm expecting other people to implement self-care and taking care of themselves, or exposing themselves to something that they're anxious about, that they've been afraid to do, I need to practice that myself too. So during all of this, I think that we've leaned on each other a lot. Morgan's probably one of the people I talk to the most out of my friend list, because we get it. And we're also trying to be there for other people, but we need to be there for ourselves and each other as well.
Yeah, that's good. Yeah. Morgan, how do you feel about it?
I mean, I feel really similar. You know, we're therapists, but we're humans. And so that's what I like to tell my clients as well. And I don't mind if they see that human side of me as well. But when all of this started, I was so thankful to have Kim, because we do a lot from home now. Cause I finally got internet. But at the beginning we were doing it at the office, and it was so nice to not be alone, right? To have another person to see when we were kind of taking this break and not seeing people in person. And, I trust Kim just about more than anybody in the world. I think we know a lot about each other, and we're there for each other. Not only do we support each other, but we challenge each other as well. And, we highlight for each other, maybe some things to think about. And so, we have a very strong friend connection that's helpful. But we also hold each other accountable. And I think we hold a great importance, the other types of self-care that we want our clients to do as well. The more boring self-care of, just regular check-ins with our doctors and our dentists and taking care of ourselves in that way. Not only am I a therapist, I have my own therapist. So when this started, ramping that up, I took this time, and I really appreciated having some extra time to focus on self-care. Not only seeing a therapist, I saw a registered dietitian for some food stuff for intuitive eating. And I really appreciated the slowdown, because so many things for me became apparent of, I really need to take care of this. I need to address this, and it's getting in the way. And so I know we do it as therapists, but I would imagine other professions do it as well. A lot of times Kim and I talk about how we're getting in our own way. And so I think that this was a good time for us to reflect, at least for me. I'll speak for me. I won't speak for Kim. But it also sounds like you have colleagues that experience that as well. And so, you're talking about that corporate culture at American Eagle and how nobody wants to leave. I'm sure everybody wanted to leave.
Oh, yeah.
But nobody wanted to be the first one out the door. And so now we're seeing at the end of the day, who's really important when shit goes bad. Is it all the corporate people that are there for you, or is it your friends?
Right.
So I think also kind of realizing at the end of the day, it's our friends and family that get us through. I've been leaning on them for my self-care.
Yeah. And I assume they've probably all been leaning on you guys too. Like, do you find you guys are getting some more family phone calls?
I think we do. I think what's been challenging for this, and a couple colleagues had shared the article, and I really appreciate it. Kim can speak to this as well. We've learned how to compartmentalize, right? I can receive bad personal news, compartmentalize it, and go do a session. And sometimes I prefer that, because I'm good at that. I'm good at disconnecting, because you have to do well, you have to be able to do that. But for this, it was so new. We're learning about COVID this at the same rate as everybody else. Yeah. So our fear and anxiety is also in real time. And so in some ways, it was a little bit harder to compartmentalize that. So that part was difficult.
Well, especially because I think prior to COVID, we are looked at and we are considered the experts on, human behavior and relationships and mental health diagnoses and things like that. And so people were turning and have been turning to us of what to do during this. And so we're going through this with you, right? And so we're trying to pick apart the anxious responses, the depressive responses, and try to normalize that. But there's been a lot of uncertainty. There's been a lot of unknown, around COVID and around this year. And when is it over? When are things going to be back to normal? I also just want to step back for a moment to something Morgan was saying. She said that so beautifully. You did an awesome job with that, of talking about the self-care and just leaning on each other. And I just want to make the comment of, and this is my bias, every good therapist has a good therapist behind them. And so Morgan and I talk about this a lot, of how it's so important to, again, practice what we preach, work on self, because people will often ask, I don't know if this happened to you, Morgan, like, well, do you see a therapist? well, like, how does a therapist get a therapist? And I'm like, yeah, I absolutely do. And there doesn't have to be anything wrong to work on yourself. Right. And I think that's a misconception that I definitely wanted to speak to, because as I said earlier, working on self can be a cool thing. Like, maybe you want to get to know yourself more. Maybe you want to challenge yourself and see the areas that you might need to work on. And so I'm a very big advocate to that. And I try to practice that within my own life.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, the self-care thing, it's got to be probably one of the most important times to really buckle down and think about that type of stuff. I know, like, in the beginning of this, my wife and I were like, oh man, the only thing we can do is go take walks. Yeah. So we took walks. We were like walking like 8 miles a day or something like that. Like, we were going down like the 5-star trail and back and like all this stuff. And, we were like really strict on our diets. Everything was great. And then I remember specifically the one day that I was like, I just looked at her and I was like, who knows when we're going to have to see people again? Like, I just don't fucking care anymore. I'm going to eat a cake today. And that's what I did. We went to the store, we got ourselves some funfetti cake, and nice. I ate the entire thing in, I think, 2 days. And I was just like, this is fantastic. And I just kept doing that for months. And then finally I was like, all right, we're like, I'm falling off the rails here. So had to get back on it. And that was tough too. That was really hard to like, okay, I'm not having McDonald's for lunch. I'm eating a salad, something like that.
Yeah, no, you bring up a good point, because a lot of people have felt bad about that, Jordan, right? People have felt bad and felt shame and guilty for gaining weight or for not eating like they did prior to this. And that also needs normalized, right?
Right.
If you gained 10 or 15 pounds during a pandemic.
Or 30.
Or no judgment.
Yeah.
Cake made you happy in that moment.
Hell yeah, dude.
You were craving that. No judgment. That's okay. Right.
And Kim knows how important this is to me. And this is something that I've worked on. And I really, eventually see myself kind of adding this into my business of what I do. But just this really, I can talk for hours about this, but the toxic culture, like the diet culture, just the shaming posts about, the quarantine 15 and, how shameful it must be to gain weight. And there's a TikTok trend of people, showing themselves at the beginning of the year and how fit they were and now where they are now. But that's the body that you survived a pandemic in. And so if you needed to eat some cake.
I'm still here.
Okay, sounds good.
Okay.
I can hear you.
Okay, cool.
Yeah, we can hear you, just don't see you.
Yep. You can keep going. I can hear you.
All right. No, I was just saying, I think that, it's just, that's something in our culture that I would like to see change, that I do see changing. People kind of speaking out against that, and lots of brands are being more inclusive and showing all different types of bodies, because all bodies are good bodies, and you can improve health, and it doesn't have to change any number on the scale, but you can feel healthier, because you might have felt, it might be disappointing to not eat McDonald's for lunch, but maybe you physically felt better eating a salad. Whether or not the scale went down or not, how you felt and how it felt in your body.
Right. Yeah. I mean, the body positivity thing, that's something that's like pretty close to my heart, that I did actually enjoy from American Eagle and Aerie and things like that. That company, Aerie specifically, that's their whole motto. And so when I was working there and I was working on those campaigns, shooting those videos and stuff like that, that was fantastic. And it brought me to a point where I don't know if you guys know who Iskra Lawrence is. She's a model, I guess a plus size model. She's like 4, 5, 6 million followers. She's like one of the biggest, most popular models like ever. Okay. And so she was who headed up the campaign for us. And she's such a sweet girl. Like, we would, meet on set, and you would think like, oh my God, like this is the equivalent of talking to Cindy Crawford or something. Like this is like mega model, like supermodel shit here. And so sweet, so down to earth and all that stuff. And I remember like seeing videos of her on like Instagram of stuff that we would shoot, and then these internet trolls coming and saying like, yo, go eat a bag of chips or something like that. And the way she would deal with that is she would come back with a video of her eating a bag of chips and like literally just dumping chips in her mouth. And it was so awesome to see somebody just say like, yo, do you know who I am? Like, I mean, I don't care. Like, make fun of me, do whatever you need to do. And, she was fine with it. And that really empowered people as well. Mm-hmm. For her to come back and like, I don't know what the kids call it, clap back these days.
I think that is the term. That was good.
There you go. Yeah. But it was really cool. And, to be a part of that, that culture for like 4 or 5 years was fantastic. And that's something that will stay with me forever. I love it.
That's great. And I appreciate the brands that had a lot to lose, right? Because before something is a thing, right? Before it's the body positivity movement, then it's just a brand taking the chance. And I think American Eagle and Dove were at the forefront of that. And so you're absolutely right, because they did have a lot to lose. And so I think it is, I think that's great that they did that, and that was something that resonated with you. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it was really cool just to, kind of be surrounded by people who were like, everybody really at the company. And if you're a model and stuff, obviously you care about your image and stuff like that. But it was more about their health. And, like you can be heavy and be healthy.
Yeah.
And you can be heavy and be unhealthy. There's a difference there. And you could be rail thin and be heavy and unhealthy at the same time. So just to get to know the differences between those two and things, I mean, that's important. And that all comes down to mental health and depression and anxiety and all that stuff too. Absolutely. They all share the same space, I think.
Absolutely. Because go ahead, Morgan.
Oh, no, I was going to say what you were describing, that like concern trolling. I'm just worried about your health. I think that we can see that sometimes in the mental health realm as well, where somehow people want people to get help, but they also don't want them to be in process. And, what Kim and I were talking about, Kim bringing up kind of your relationship with yourself, you don't go from, oh, I'm anxious and I can't leave the house to now I'm all better. We, as a society, we love a successful story and we love a before and after, but we struggle to see people in the middle of that.
Yeah. Yeah.
And no matter what weight we are, no matter what size we are, we still have internal work to do to love self, right? And that's why that self-work is so important, because I see this all the time, and I know you do too, Morgan. We've talked about this it's easy to avoid self and try to focus on something externally to control, to feel better about self. But it's just running on a hamster wheel. You're never going to be fully happy with self if you lose 20 pounds or 30 pounds, if you're not actually working on getting to know yourself better. Like, and things that, come into play there. What's my self-talk? What's the inner dialogue in my head like? A lot of times what I see with people, and even whenever we're talking about body image, it's, oh, I look terrible. Oh, I'm so stupid. I can't believe I did that. Well, if that's how we talk and treat ourselves, how in the hell am I supposed to feel good about myself? So people will come in wanting the magic answer. Like, I just want to feel better. Help me get rid of this anxiety. What should I do? Tell me what to do so that I can feel better. And the answer is always working on the relationship with yourself. And there's no way around that, at least in my eyes. I think, Morgan, you just said this the other day, we were talking about this. The only way out is through. You can't escape anxiety with a magic answer. And so I think whenever that it's easier to judge other people. And most of the time, whenever people are doing that, it is completely reflective of the relationship they have with themselves. Because what healthy person and self-loving person would shame somebody else for eating potato chips, right?
Right. Yeah.
I love potato chips on a side note. So.
Who doesn't? Right. I mean, yeah, it's, if people sit there and they spend so much time manifesting negative stuff, if they just did the positive stuff, like you sit there and say, like, I'm so stupid, I'm so fat, I'm so lazy, I'm so this. Well, do something that makes you happy, and you don't have to actually have a goal in mind. Like when we take our dog for a walk, we don't sit and think about the calories that we're burning. We think about the endorphins that we're, messing with there, and it just makes us feel better. We get out, we breathe some fresh air, and we have fun. That's it.
What you're saying, I think, it's such a healthy approach because you're being intuitive about it.
Mm-hmm.
You're doing something from a place of this makes me feel good, not because I should do it so that I burn off the chips that I ate, right?
Yeah.
People are, and I don't mean to generalize, I'm just generalizing for the conversation,
sure. Yeah.
But it's very popular for people to, again, shame themselves, belittle themselves as if that's going to make one feel better. Mm-hmm. So I definitely encourage people, like, pay attention to how you talk to yourself, pay attention to the things you say. And I know it's much, much easier said than done because at times it's habit, but it's definitely worth leaning into.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. I agree. What are, I wanted to get into a positive note here about the pandemic, though. I wanted to ask you guys, is there something, like I said, I started jamming on the guitar again. Is there something that you guys started to do throughout this? Did you take your time and use it wisely? Did you guys start doing something that you've wanted to do for a long time?
Good question. I'm trying to think if I did one thing in particular. Morgan, do you have do you know what's on your mind with yours?
I have one. Yeah. What I did during this was I said that I worked with a registered dietitian. I did a 5-month course on intuitive eating to heal my relationship with food. And so that was intense, but also very good. It was something that I got a lot of healing from. I decorated some Christmas cookies as well. Try to any fun, crafty things. It's a little bit lighter conversation than, talking about disordered eating and healing your relationship with food. But I certainly enjoyed that work and, the healing that I received from it. But I mostly just hung out with the animals a lot more.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know.
Yeah, some people, decided to build a deck or put in a pool. Some people decided to work on themselves. And, I think it's all important that, everyone got the chance one time in this entire world to just retract from society and do whatever the fuck they wanted to do. And I thought that's so cool.
Being honest, I started my business at the start of COVID.
Yeah.
I was a little bit more focused there. But I did try just maintaining, I think of things as the foundation, how am I eating? How am I sleeping? I was trying to maintain working out because it made me feel good. Mm-hmm. I played hockey with some people too.
That's awesome.
Yeah. It was a cool thing. It was definitely a fun thing.
You throwing elbows?
And then I would say, I'm so sorry because I don't want to hurt anybody. So I actually hurt somebody.
Would you agree too, Kim? I think in some ways, I don't know that Kim and I experienced the same slowdown. I think socially we did, but Kim started her business and filled up right away. Mm-hmm. And, I definitely think that it's been busy.
Yeah. So I kind of struggled to answer that to a degree because it was a different time for me, and I'm very grateful and thankful for that, with starting my business and it being the right time to be there for people. But that was definitely more of my focus, along with trying to maintain self-care. So just like, I would talk to Morgan, I think nearly every night we had conversations, just checking in with each other. How are you doing? I think we've been extremely supportive of one another, trying to take my dog out for a walk just to get outside. Yeah. I was taking him to some group classes just to do things, but I don't feel like I had a ton of free time, to be honest, because of how it happened for me.
Yeah. And that happened with some people. Like my wife has not had a day off from work. She's in healthcare. So she's not had to work from home or do any of the things that like normal people are doing. So she's still, this is normal for her. Like, whether this pandemic's happening or not, it doesn't really affect her schedule day to day.
And I think to that point too, it's very fair to point out both, right? Because I think there have been some people that felt bad to say, I'm so busy, I wish I had a day off, because there are so many people that don't have the privilege right now to go to work. And then at the same time, those people too, like, it's okay to complain about having so much time on your hands or about not being able to go to work. So it's just one of those things where everybody's been affected differently, but it's all valid.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I agree.
I think too, kind of going off of that, because some people were they were busier. So, if anybody out there, didn't pick up a new hobby, because I think we can also shame ourselves for that. Like, oh, I thought I just needed extra time to get this room cleaned out. Turns out I just didn't want to do it.
Yeah.
Okay. Right. It's okay if you were stressed and it was just too much. It was too much. So
you bring up a good point. I think a lot of people have shamed themselves for not being as productive. Yeah. Right. So even if they did have some time, exactly your example was perfect. Like, oh, I guess I just haven't felt doing it. Maybe it wasn't the time. Maybe that wasn't the excuse. And that's okay.
Yeah, absolutely. So if you guys had an elevator pitch that you guys could give each one of you, to the people listening right now, I guess, what is your piece of advice moving forward into a new year?
That's a good question. I would say, so mine tend to be a little bit more elaborate. I don't know if it's an elevator pitch per se, but lean in, like, allow yourself to be. You don't have to shame yourself to be doing more, doing less. Like, give yourself permission to feel how you do. Talk about it. Connect. We don't heal from isolation or from holding things to self. So my big pitch would be practice vulnerability, practice connecting, say how you feel, and I guarantee somebody's going to connect with it. It's not just you.
That's good. Good info. Okay. It's true. It's 100% true.
Okay. I'm so sorry. My phone rang, and so the audio cut out, so I couldn't hear what I'm elevator pitching.
Oh, I just said, you're good. I was just saying what advice would you give like the people listening that, moving into this new year, like how would you, what's the advice that you would give them?
Yeah. Just, having patience with yourself and giving yourself permission. I'm all about giving ourselves, we talk about this all the time, giving ourselves permission, right? So giving yourself permission to be in process. I think we get so focused on where we need to be, but the work is right where we're at. So, I think it's good to know what general direction you're going in, but just making peace and, allowing yourself to be in process and not getting too caught up in our rate of growth, because we grow at different rates and we do things in different amounts of time. So I guess the big take homes are change is hard, have patience with yourself, and give yourself permission to be in process.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Very good. Yeah. Do you guys, would you guys mind telling people how to get in touch with you if they need to do so?
Yeah. So we both have Psychology Today profiles. So if you just look up our names, our Psychology Today profiles will pop up, and actually our emails are on there. The phone numbers to contact us are on there. And I also have no problem giving you my email if anybody has a question. I know Morgan and I have both talked about this before, and we've put it out there like on our personal pages that even if somebody's trying to find help or they want a therapist, even if it's not me, that's okay. You don't have to see me. You don't have to see Morgan. But if you're looking for somebody, we are more than happy to connect you to the right people, to answer a question that we can, to guide you to the person that might be a good fit for you. Because keep in mind, and I think this is important for people, if you go to a therapist and you don't feel comfortable, that is okay. We don't take it personally. The relationship is number one. And so you have to feel comfortable with the person you're seeing in order to really be honest and vulnerable and work on yourself. So none of us take it personally. We know we're not a good fit for everybody. Reach out to us if we can help, and we will guide you. So sorry, Morgan, I'm totally speaking for you there too. I just know we've talked about this before.
Yep. Yeah, and I do think that that's so important to, again, normalize. Again, we're therapists and we're human, so that also means we have personalities. And first of all, it's an incredible privilege that we get to do what we do, that we get to be involved in somebody's story, that we get to hear, all of the things that they've gone through and try to help them make sense of things. One, we want to make sure that people are comfortable with us. So if it's not a good fit, if there's a specific type of therapist, that's not an ego thing for us. Mm-hmm. We will happily, send you to somebody that we know in the field that we would trust.
Yeah, that's good. Yeah. Do you guys have, do your businesses have Facebook pages or websites and things that you could direct people?
Yeah, so I do have a Facebook page under my name, under Kimberly Broaddus. And then, like I said, with Psychology Today, it's just a website where you can search therapists. You can see how they work. We both have little blurbs about ourselves and how we do things on there. So those are the platforms I'm thinking of, Morgan, unless I'm missing one.
Yeah. I have a therapy Instagram page that is very much in process right now. So it has my name, and
that's okay.
It is okay. It's okay. But so people can find me on there too. It's Morgan Zimmerman, LMFT.
Yeah. Awesome. So good. Yeah. I mean, it's nice to connect with people, and especially after a conversation like this, I feel like people really get to know kind of, a little bit about who we are as people. You put yourself out there, and, I think that this could, help people feel more comfortable talking to you guys and stuff. And obviously I'll put those links down in the show notes at the bottom of the description of the episode and things like that. But I just wanted to thank you guys for coming on to the show. I think it was very nice and very therapeutic for me even to sit and talk about, just the goofy things that I've done throughout the pandemic and things like that. Yep. And, it is what it is.
Thank you so much for allowing us to do this and bringing us onto your podcast so that we can have a conversation about vulnerability, emotions, feelings, and experiences. And I just want to give credit to you though, too, Jordan, because whenever I was thinking about this, you kept just kind of coming in my head because I've seen your stuff online and you just seem so comfortable and easy to talk to as well. And so you made this so much fun, and I hope that people get something from it.
I'm sure they will. Yeah. I mean, it feels like the people that listen to this show, I think I'm pretty lucky that the people that listen to this show are very supportive and very open types of people. And, it's a good group, and I'm very excited. I think they'll definitely get something out of it. So
thank you.
Awesome.
Thank you so much. This was a lot of fun. I really enjoyed this.
Yeah, me too. It was awesome. Why don't you guys stick around real quick and we'll chat a little bit afterwards. All right, there goes Kim and Morgan with some really great advice on how to deal with the crappy situations that we've all been kind of dealing with this entire year. For me personally, I've been doing a lot of things that make me happy, things that I miss doing that I didn't have time to do, and now I do have some more time that I've been able to dedicate to doing them. You could try things like that, or if you feel like you need to talk to somebody, you could do that and reach out to these two ladies, and or somebody that you feel very comfortable talking to, and do that for yourself. It's very important. Again, this episode of this podcast was brought to you by Brian Nicholas Jewelry. They're right inside of the Pawn and Jewelry Exchange, so it's definitely a little hidden gem inside of Greensburg. I mean, they're not your typical jewelry shop. There's no stuffiness, there's no intimidation or anything like that. They're really there to help you out, and the fact that they are a husband and wife team really makes it a welcoming atmosphere. As I said earlier, you have access to a master jeweler and a certified appraiser right there on site. You can find them on Instagram, Facebook at Brian Nicholas Jewelry, and you can even just stop in and say hey. That's how loose the atmosphere is there. It's really cool. Just pop in, say hey, ask some questions, and they'll tell you what's up. Go check them out. I hope you guys have a fantastic holiday season, and we will see you next week for a new episode. See ya.